It's about sharing conversations. Arrow.net, ARROE.net. All right, let's do it. Let's play it forward. Real people, real stories, the struggle to play it forward. Episode number 412 is with television host, author, and social media influencer, Shannon Lanier.
I am great. How about yourself?
Absolutely fantastic. I hear a southern accent. What part of the South are you from?
I'm not.
Really?
I don't know. I'm originally from Ohio, born and raised. Spent some time in New York. Maybe I am living in Florida now, so maybe I'm starting to catch a little of that Florida twang. Look, I've only been here for 8 months. Goodness, it's already catching. After 8 months.
Well, here in the South,
I need to go home.
Here in the South, it's all about the personality, and that's what I'm picking up on. I love your personality.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You have got a subject here that needs to be experienced by all people. 1,000 years of slavery. Now, how many people on this planet would sit there and go, 1,000 years? What are we talking about here, Shannon?
Yeah, well, it goes way beyond 1,000 years, let me tell you. However, we had to start somewhere, and this project is amazing because it really puts in perspective everything that this world has gone through. A lot of people here in the U.S., they're just familiar with what is currently going on or what happened in the last 400 years of slavery that we always hear about right here in colonial America, per se. It goes way beyond that, and there's so much more involved in this history of slavery, and this documentary or docuseries takes you through a global comprehensive history lesson of slavery from Africa to the Caribbean, from New Orleans to Istanbul. Yep. You'll be surprised of how many places were impacted by slavery.
I have to I need to understand the impact that it had on you, because I would sit there if I was studying something in New Orleans or the Caribbean or Istanbul, I would be sitting back and writing in my journal on how it affected me personally. What was the effect on you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a descendant of President Thomas Jefferson and his slave Sally Hemings, and I mean, that is an impact that I deal with every day in trying to understand what that means and what that makes me. And it's complicated. It's just as complicated as the history of this country, but it's sometimes emotional. Sometimes it is aggravating. Sometimes, you get angry just thinking about it, and that he could have done more to free his slaves, his family, the people that were on his plantation. So you go through those range of emotions, but you have to come to a place of understanding, a place of peace, a place of reckoning with yourself, so you're not living in anger all the times. And you just have to, sort of live with it. And I like to focus on some of the positive aspects of the horrible past that has come out of slavery. The fact that I come from great survivors, from not only kings and queens from Africa, but also from the people, the strongest people on the planet who were able to survive the brutality of slavery. They survived. I come from those people. So if they can survive, I can survive the hardships that I'm going through right now today because my ancestors were even stronger than I.
What you've done with the Smithsonian Channel is the fact that you've created a 4-part docuseries in the way that we can go back to this at any given moment, and thank God for streaming and things like that, because we can really study the message that you're bringing forward.
Yeah, well, I wish I created it or was more larger part of it. I am just one of many people who have participated on this. But you have everybody from Debbie Allen to Valerie Jarrett to Soledad O'Brien, Marc, Morial, of course, Courtney B. Vance, Dr. Bernice King. I mean, so many people. The Smithsonian's huge part in this as well, who have contributed to this, and again, all over the globe. So it has a global impact, and I think that's why it's important for people to spend some time watching this every Monday in February to really understand culturally what happened and historically what happened and how that's all shaped everything that we're going through, even some of the stuff we're seeing now, that how these people were enslaved all over the globe, and now it's having an impact even today. But, there is hope at the end of the tunnel.
What did you personally learn? What did you grow from? Because something like this, 1,000 years of slavery, this is a seed planter. This is something, and the fruit will come from it.
Well, you got to watch my interview to see what I learned, but I do. I did know a lot about my family because I co-wrote, along with Jane Feldman, the book Jefferson's Children, the story of one American family that really talks about my journey to discover the descendants of Thomas Jefferson, both through his wife Martha and through his slave Sally Hemings. So I learned a lot about my family in that process, but in watching this docuseries, I learned so much more about the global impact, things that I didn't know, how many rebellions there were from slaves who had uprisings and tried to fight back. And then for those who were not successful in their uprising, the brutal, horrible things that were done to them. I don't even know what time people are listening to this interview, so I won't even describe that just in case it's breakfast time. But it was horrible information that, you find out, but also information of resilience and strength and pride and family, that comes out of these stories. And also the impact that it had, again, when I talk about that it had a global impact, I mean, you hear about, white slavery in Europe, and you're like, what? And you hear about the transatlantic slave trade and the revolt on the Amistad that people are familiar with from the movie, but hearing about these stories and then also some of the celebrities that are connected to these famous ancestors or famous stories or stories you never heard before. It's so eye-opening, and it really gives you a bigger perspective on slavery.
It's a conversation starter. This is the kind of stuff that creates the conversation in the community so that we can do something about it.
Oh, definitely, because you're like, did you know? And I was telling my wife, did you know? Did you know this happened? And she's like, no. I was like, oh, my gosh. And, you think we're educated in certain things. I've been to college and all this stuff. I even took African studies courses, and I'm still learning new stuff through this docuseries. And I think it's also a little bit more digestible when people are able to watch it on television and people are able to, I guess, to have more of an open heart towards it because it's on television. And, so let's be honest, a lot of people don't like to read huge books with the almanac and information in it about some of this stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of these stories aren't even in books yet. Right. So I think that's one of the great things that we're hearing, like the subtitle of 1,000 Years of Slavery is The Untold Story. And a lot of these stories we're hearing are untold until now. And so that's why I think it's so important for people to watch this series, to understand it, to have an open heart and open mind to it, to receiving new information, and really educating themselves about different people. Because when we educate ourselves about different people, then I think the world becomes a better place.
So true, so true. You've got to come back to this show anytime in the future, Shannon. The door is always going to be open for you.
I'm ready. I'm going to have to come back with my new book. My next book, I'll be ready for you.
All right, buddy. All right. Well, you be brilliant today, okay, Shannon?
Thank you so much, and you keep up the great work.